Okay, so this is the second page. Are you on that spot? That's where I'm going to start. Okay, so I have the graph of two functions, the f of x and the g of x. And we're going to be doing stuff with them together, which is called a composite function. So putting them together. What is the domain? So what is the domain where they both exist? They both have to exist. So what's the farthest left where they both exist? Where in the graph, on the left-hand side of the graph, will we go to them both existing? Did you pick -2? And how far right can we move where they both exist? To 2. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to draw a t-chart, and I'm going to go from -2 to 2, because that's the domain. Okay, so I'm going to put the points on here. When x is -2, f of x is 2. At -1, f of x is, what is that height? 1, 2, 3, 4. At 0, f of x is 4. At 1, f of x is 4. At 2, f of x is 4. Okay, g of x. At -2, g of x is -1. At -1, g of x is -2. If x was 0, g of x is -3. So keep going like that. Okay, now I'm looking into my question here. We're going to have to do the functions added. This one's asking us to subtract, times, and divide. Okay, so I'm going to create this chart since I have to do all of them. Okay, can you, on this question, we're going to say what's the f function plus the g function? Okay, so what do you get when you add them together? So what's 2 plus -1? That's 1. 4 plus -2 is 2. 4 plus -3 is 1. 4 plus -2 is 2. 4 plus -1 is 3. Okay, so let's graph this function. Okay, so here's the points. You're going to have this as a coordinate. -2, 1. -2, 1. Okay, here's your next coordinate when you add them together. At -1, when we added them together, it was a 2. So -1, 2. The next coordinate when we added them together was 0, 1. 1, 2. And then the last coordinate is 2, 3. Okay, so this is going to look like that. Obviously, when you're graphing things, pay attention. Does it have arrows? Then yours has arrows. If it doesn't, yours doesn't, right? Okay, next. This one you're going to have to be careful. Does it make sense when I add numbers? The order doesn't matter. But when I subtract numbers, the order matters. So this has to go with the f function minus the g function. If I did that the other way around, it would be wrong, right? So subtraction, make sure you're doing it in the right order. So I have to do the f, then subtract the g. So I have to do it 2 subtract -1. That's what I'm doing, which is 3. Careful with negatives when you subtract, right? 4 subtract -2, 6. 4 subtract -3, 7. 6 and 5. Okay. So here's my first coordinate. -2, 3. -1, 6. 0, 7. 1, 6. And then 2, 5. Okay, we're going to multiply now. Does it matter the order? If I'm multiplying two functions, does my order matter? Nope. So I don't even care about the order. I'm just going to look and say, let's times these numbers. So -2, -8, -12, -8, and -4. I'm timesing the f and the g numbers together. Okay, so my coordinates are going to be -2, -2. -1, -8. Zero, -12. Sorry, that's kind of off your grid here. Somewhere down there. 1, -8. And then 2, -4. Okay, the last, I have a division. So this one, the order matters. So be careful with your order here. We're doing the f divided by the g. Do you also notice that when you divide, you might run into restrictions? Because if you ever create a divide by 0, right, we have an error, right? So it's an asymptote. So f divided by g. Okay, so 2 divided by -1. -2. 4 divided by -2 is also. 4 divided by -3 is -1.33. 4 divided by -2, -2, then that's a -4. Okay, so I'm going to graph those 5 coordinates. Okay, so that's all it is kind of charting it out and putting your points together. So I'm going to do one with you in your booklet. So find your work booklet. I'm going to do question 6 with you on page 3. Question 6, it's on page 3. Are we okay? We found it? Okay, so this is kind of my chart idea. Now, I don't really have a specific domain, right? Because we both have infinite domains here. So what do you want to do? Do you just want to pick a few random x values? Is that okay? How about -2, -1, 0? What do you want to do? 3? What? You want to see it, is what you're saying? Okay, I don't know. I just picked some random x values. Some -0, some positive. I don't know. We'll go for one more. Okay. So you're going to have to figure out what the y is. So at -2, so I'm going to go to the f function. At -2, the height is, I got a -5. At -1, -4. 0 is -3. At 3, the height is 0. And at 4, the height is 1. Okay, so now I'm onto the G graph. So at -2, right here, my height is -1. At -1, the height is 0. At 0, the graph is at 1. At 3, it's up to 4, and then that's 5. Okay, so I'm asked to graph this function, and so I'm timesing them, and I don't really need to think about the order because timesing two numbers, it doesn't matter. So timesing, this is 5, 0, -3, 0, 5. I timesed those two numbers. Okay, so this is what I'm doing. I'm kind of done with those, right? You don't need to do that, but I'm showing you, like, I'm done with that. I had to use it, but now I'm kind of done with it. So these are my new coordinates. Okay, so I'm going to graph those, and then I'm thinking they're going to make a shape, some kind of connection. So -2, 5. -1, 0, 0, -3, okay, does anybody have a prediction on what this shape is? It's going to be a parabola? Okay, there's a vertex though. Does anybody know how to kind of figure out So there's probably going to be a point there and there, right? So we probably could have done a few more x values. I think it would have been helpful if we did x equals 1 on our chart. I would have gone back and done that if I couldn't figure out exactly where. The x equals 1. Let's do that on our chart here, because I think I need that exact point. So at 1, the first graph is at -2, and at 1, the second graph is at 2. So that coordinate should be 1, -4. Does that make sense with how we look on our graph? Okay, I'm going to show you another way, because this question actually gave me the equations. So if you are a person who loves equations, maybe there's a few of you, you just love your equations, then this is how you would do it. I have to times them. So what do I get if I times this by this? So I think they called our new function h equals this times this. Can you understand that this equation is an x squared equation? Right? So it's going to be a parabola. With how it looks right now, the x-intercepts those are the x-intercepts. If I FOIL this out, that's also my y-intercept, right? And then what are some other things I know about parabolas? These points are symmetric, so this point would be symmetric with that point. And I know the slope is 1, so I can just kind of fill in my pattern. 1, 1, 2, 4, 3, 9. Okay? That's just another way to do it. So you don't have to do it that way, but if you really like making your connections with your equations and everything we've learned in the past, those all fit in with that as well.